Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. I was going to say this morning, but it's night, so sorry about that. But Startup Grind is an entrepreneur community. It's sponsored by Google for Entrepreneurs. We are the largest entrepreneur community in the world, and we always make friends and help other people. So our values is making friends, helping other people, and making the most of their business during startups. So Startup Grind has been going in Cardiff for about a year now, and it's been quite impressive, the people that I have met and the people that it's been great attending the events as well. So for tonight we have a great speaker, Angela Durrant. She always said whatever, she's that type of character, she's such a nice lady and she likes to help. And she's got such an impressive record in helping so many people, over 900 people so far, especially with their vocals and with their businesses that they do as well, for their presentations as well, which is quite relevant for startups as well, because they need to do startups presentations throughout their business journeys. So before we get Angela down, if we could just perhaps practice a little bit because traditionally with Startup Grind, when the speakers come down, we normally stand up and we cheer the speakers so they get to. So, who would be your most? If it was, for example, Beyonce, how much cheer would you do? How loud could you cheer if you saw Beyonce coming down the stairs? Yeah, it's a problem. No, it'll be fine. So let's just do a big practice first. So if you just give the big cheer, so just imagine there's Beyonce coming down the stairs. So how loud would you cheer? So let's go 1, 2, 3. Hey! Okay, now that's for the real thing. now it's the real thing. So now we have to do it even further. So we have to cheer even higher. So now we have Angela Durrant. So let's stand up and please welcome Angela Durrant. Welcome.
Welcome.
How are you?
Very much.
So, other guests, we could take a seat. We've got another. Yeah. So, if you start by good stuff, you start on the relation. So, after all, and inside, somebody else will more effective to get the goal and helping us as well. So, if you could say how or perhaps you start where you have the so I don't think getting to go you can understand perspective.
Cool.
Overall.
I was in Birmingham, and so I ended originally in Wales, and I felt when I was my edges doing my seemed too physically. Seemed to London's way scary, and Scotland, Wales far a good choice. And my family at the time, but my family from the North of England, and I was a comedian, and I spent most of my 5 years in the back of a Fred Mo desk or white Ford with a black Ford rate of steroid with an upper desk or to theatre in the UK meal down. My father's brother Kay was my illustrator, my flailing player. I am from the Fort as a form-based student. So anyway, has any students called collection of things and spending that sort of record playing the Fort tube here. It's claimable. So you knew watching out of that. This is why I'm on that app. I around the country. So I would take on really used around to I was just really used to watching audience people is really hiring. I was watching apps. Used to watch great cast and like Sandy Frank and Arthur Asson. So those names how YouTube skin will see. Don't know in there. They go and sort of when you stress in the them, but they are season 7 a lesson, so sort of upbringing 6 months watching aunties in the theatre with my was very really people in the audience.
With passion. was born, something that is one of those standing questions which did that for this connect path to make the payment kind of for the afterwards go to school. What's the that?
School in Birmingham, A levels in Birmingham. And I went to school, I went to Birmingham, a really academic school. I always felt like the active girl from the secondary track. But so not like I was the wrong side of the academics really. Or even find everybody to do follows a way. I think car fans what they want to know their strengths really clearly. Sometimes it takes some people to find it out half the times before they and it's a while. So I kind of into this. So I kind of working straight from because I knew I didn't go to university straight away and I saw what I wanted to do. But I knew I was to have something I didn't know music to do. And I wanted to one day to do I think it prompted me to kind of go I get somewhere where the music connected me and that's when I started to really good. So just got to do it really minding my I thought to try English. I did a sort of electric to Cardiff, so I did, and on one Cardiff, I think it was like Cardiff, I was going to Cardiff, so that was Cardiff, I did some music college, moved to cut away, if I moved my intention, I straight back was myself, outside, actually, I went to my community studio, based at the time, Carl Street, recording room, that was in a town, and I thought then the said it was really sometimes things, isn't it? Well, that this is fun. As it's fun, so I went down. Like, do you take my career? And take the train. And I said, the guy that was running his time call, and he said, one woman here at the time, she lasted 2 weeks. If you can, like, well, we have I'll take it here. 2 weeks. I said, I'm up for a chat. Watch. So I thought, that's it. Thought, we'll go in. I often found myself I would mail. So my sainted going starting off in the domain industry, really environments in studio, music in 4 years, record and which I taken from music college to the Welsh College. Then after that, I went to music.
After that, I decided to start your own bit. So how did you see that to start the business? So after there,
I think sometimes there's very little sometimes certain types of business help enough. So there's more help with technologies. There's help people now different types of business. When I was, with the years of business starting, there was 20 league, nothing out there. Actually, you start business. There was these to help that you thought business had to go down. You had to get an prudent, you had to audition, you had to do things. It wasn't really going on any help to do that. So then outside of really, I'm an entrepreneur, a friend of mine that entrepreneurial. I was quite up a company, realising miracles, and we entertainment, like opera, musical, etc. corporate, and we did. And that went on a class about etc. And 4 or 5 products on and off while we were doing 4 years off. What I never wanted and one of the thingers to this was trying to stick it but never did. That makes always, I watched lots of people, etc. And I think I just never disappeared what sometimes and route to take I was and some knew what life takes the right journey to take. Sometimes to take in one that you expect. So thank you. I actually came to music at the time and out into business and went into small business houses and I did turn out because I just didn't have that point with when I came in. I'd done as professional spots, but it was conditioned to several that next level things didn't feel like me as if they would go to support level, get to the build level. So it's a lot of fun. Help people next levels. I did and crossroads at any times, and I kind of a little way. Several things in life is points that a little way kind of when you get crossroads where there's like make a decision, one decision, crossing another decision. You have to, and you never know. You make one is good, and you make you one decision, or but you're going to find yourself like another. So I do find myself both in those businesses. Seek and I found these parking business for about years. Kind of had
manage your passion. business and being actually like the Asian.
I didn't think I was being an entrepreneur. I was clearly being an entrepreneur. We don't think of it about music business being an really, but you were in the, I tell you, have this like that. But you know what? It gave me this training for what I do now to work with great people because what? Number one, if you're at an audition, you're having to sell yourself. When you're having to go in and you against the value of people, and you're having to you have yourself across. I think sometimes you're not getting feedback. Sometimes you don't know what's worse. Some you don't know what's not getting anything. Sometimes you don't. And then when I actually work, I spent time in housing. I was, I think they call it setting action cities. Resting act when you're not resting, when you're not doing the ritual acting or a simple job, not work a sales job, in an emotional job, or doing something in doing. And I would have sold everywhere doing between in London, and I would have sold credit and cards and houses, IDs, wine, ham, cheese, knows what, insurance, absolutely, literally every shit that was at toilet diver, everything. Because you know, I had to get that particular product, I had to, present it and try to sell it, and I kind of had this record that when I the fee was for a day. Now I could stay there in winter iced tea. Now I love Tesco there, and I could get to it, and I could think, out the box. And how was I going to get rid of this iced tea in the middle of winter? Everyone's iced tea. Or I can just and just take the tea and just go, all right, well, damn it, whatever. The money. But I knew I would have sold that stuff. I would then, if I could go and that's something else that I've got to do, I could go and do some practice or some singing or wanting an audition about. So I got really good at selling, and it was totally by default because it was because I thought, how am I going to actually get rid of this stuff and then go out on the other side. So I was learning all these skills and how to take an item and actually represent it and sell it way before I understood what sales it was about.
So, in terms of your passion, I can see that's the inside of that's what I come across quite a lot. In terms of helping as well, how helping your customers, how you identify something that would benefit from the skills that you have, and how you develop that to achieve the things of the sales as well. How would you describe the process that has to unfold?
Well, this is interesting because both businesses tested about 5 years ago. We're in a very small ago. I had started, I'm full of wake-up calls and second chances in my life. I don't really believe in them. But I had a car crash 9 years ago, and I nearly lost a life in the car crash. And it was one of those wake-up calls that says, you're just doing life, you're doing the daily grind, not even the start of the grind, you're doing the daily grind. And I had my mum was poorly, I was driving back and forward to Birmingham, I had a young baby, and when you're trying to do everything all the time, I had a car crash, and it was totally defining out for me because it made me wake up for a second time and go, what am I about? What am I doing? We're falling into things all about life, but what am I doing? Where do you want to go next? So I knew that my passion was music at the time. So I actually started a vocal coaching studio, and it was when starting a vocal coaching studio is what has led to even me student here now, because the understanding of serving the marketplace with what the marketplace wants, I started to understand, and it was no different to me than a good singer, a good musician, a good artist, getting up in front of the audience and actually giving the audience an experience that they have paid to have and that they want. So I started the vocal coaching studio, and what was really obvious to me within the first few months was that it wasn't classical singers, my discipline coming to me, it was pop singers, rock singers, folk singers, music theatre singers. I had a choice right there and then. Was I going to try and go what way that I had been, or was I going to serve the marketplace? Even though I knew at the time that there were skills that I possibly didn't have, but I saw a gap in the market. And that's one of the biggest things that I can say that a startup needs, because I did two things when I started the vocal coaching studio. I got in touch with a PR lady that I knew in London, not because I had a big budget, but because I knew that I needed to get visible and I needed to get seen, and people didn't know I was there, and I needed to know some steps to take to do that. So first of all, back then I was probably one of the first vocal coaches to have a website, and that seems mental now, doesn't it? You know, like everything's got a website. But back then it didn't know. She told me to build my own website. I am the least techy person on the planet, and I spent about 2 weeks building a template website that probably somebody could do in about 10 minutes these days. But it was the steps along to the journey. I did the things that I needed to do to be visible, and I started to look at who was coming to me in the marketplace. And so what I did was I looked at what their needs were, I looked at where the gaps in my ability to actually serve them. I went and then invested in the training and sourced some vocal coaching from America that was dealing with contemporary singers, and I brought a completely new discipline of vocal training into Wales from LA. And things started to explode. And it's sometimes a test of, looking at what's happening on and the resilience to keep going when you get the knocks at the same time. Because I was about 3 years into to the vocal studio, and my husband had a diagnosis of kidney cancer, and I suddenly had to become the main breadwinner, and I had no idea how to do that at the time. So again, that was when I started to network. I thought, right, I need to go and find out how people do business, because now I've got to take on the lion's share. I'm pleased to say that he is clear of cancer and he's very much with us. But it was one of those defining moments. It's one of those things where you go, okay, am I going to deal with this curveball and that curveball and this situation? And at the time of going around to networking meetings, I was completely shocked, because I truly thought that when I watch people running businesses, I thought they're going to know how to run business better than I am. But when I saw people standing up to talk about their businesses and present who they were and what they were doing and how they could help people, it really surprised me at how little confidence, how little selling of themselves, or really, if they were passionate, it didn't always show. And that reticence to actually be the tall poppy. Whereas you can clearly imagine, if you're on the stage, you've got to deal with that first off. You're not going to get over the first hurdle if you can't deal with that. So as I sort of stayed around the networking arena, I would start to get asked by, first of all, it was managers, it was men, and they would come to me and say, I don't suppose you could help me with this presentation. And again, it was an interesting thing about finding a new gap in the market, because when they were coming to me, again, I didn't know their world. I didn't know what their deal was. I had a choice, say yes to the opportunity and adapt my skills to what the marketplace was asking for me at that time, or close the door, or try and force my opinion on somebody and make me swallow it, which is not what I tend to look at. I go, okay, so tell me what's going on, where's the challenges? It's so basic to actually ask the customer or the potential customer what they want. But so many people don't do the research that they need to do when they're starting off. So it took me probably, I knew that there was a gap in the market. I just didn't suddenly run in and do it, because I didn't know enough about what people needed. I'd seen some things, but I needed to find out who needed what. So it started, I kept the vocal business, and it started to develop. And it's only in the last 12 months that I have split off the music business, because now I've realised, after working with about 700 people, it's time to take that to a new market. I had now worked with just about everybody that I could do on a local level. So the expertise that I have needs to go to another level. Now, how am I going to do that? So to me, I turned straight to the internet. I turned straight to actually doing Facebook Lives, doing video training, And it's like starting a business again, because you're starting looking for a new market, and again you've got to find out what that new market wants and find out how to serve them. So on the speaking, the business side, it started to turn into a company that we've now branded called Talk Skills. And what was really interesting to me about Talk Skills, and why I called it that, is because it was about communication, and it was about actually going out and talking to people and meeting them where they're at and finding out what they need, and then looking and going, how can I serve you? And before I'd got a website, before I'd got a business card, before I'd got any branding, I had landed a contract with the Ministry of Defence. And this is how it came about. It started with a local networking, where there were not many people in the local networking. And I made an offer, and I said, I'll do a 90-minute vocal makeover, whoever wants to deal with their physical speaking, etc. One lady, two ladies actually, said they would love to do that, actually, that would really help me. Little did I know that that lady was a project manager at Abbey Wood in the Ministry of Defence. After working with her, she said, because she didn't find it very comfortable to stand up and speak in meetings, would you come and speak to our women's network? Would you put a workshop together? Gap in the market. Yes, I'll do it. Again, the first thing I said is, who's in the audience? Who am I going to be speaking to? What do they need to come out with? What are their challenges? So I'm always looking from the customer perspective at the end result, like anybody would on stage, because the artist wants the standing ovation, but the audience, yeah, please do, yeah, because I can carry on talking for ages.
No, that's fine, because you just said you had a defining moment in your life, which was the car accident.
Yeah.
What were you doing before the car accident, which made you change after the car accident?
I was selling houses.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I was selling houses. Because the thing is, I was a natural salesperson, a natural entrepreneur, which ran straight alongside with the music side of things. But in doing that, I just realised I wasn't using all of my talent and all of my passion. And while I was doing one thing, it's just very easy to get caught on a trail, and you don't realise that there's other things you do. There's no way I'd be here. There's no way I'd serve 700 singers and speakers. There's no way I'd be speaking at the Ministry of Defence, because one workshop led to working with senior leaders, worked with the fact that in September I had an opportunity to actually train some senior leaders in NATO. And it all started from such a small seed. And sometimes I think we can get really we can try and hustle for things, but it's a case of your skills will really make room for your next opportunity. And it's really important for me, when I look at people that are starting up, and I'm starting a new business, as it were, in Talk Skills, I'm looking for my market, I'm looking if I need to upskill, I'm looking for all the things that I need to be to meet the needs of that marketplace. And then I'm going and investing in myself, and I'm investing in my training. Because it's no good having a negative mindset to go, well, they don't want to buy, they're not interested, it's only a small network. I've often worked with incredible people or formed incredible relationships in the smallest of environments. It's just that we can get very close from where the opportunities really are.
So how would you differentiate yourself from other businesses which may offer a similar what would be your advice for people to differentiate themselves from other businesses?
Well, it's a juicy one, I love that. It's
okay.
Juicy questions. Nice one. I love that. No juicy questions. There's always going to be some kind of competition in there. There's always going to be some kind of competition. It's very, very rare, unless you are, coming out with the first smartphone or the first this or the first that, and you're inventing something completely new in the marketplace, that you will have some competition. And you will also, in the service industry particularly, you will have some competition. There are so many presentation training companies. And here's where I knew that there was somewhere for me to serve, because people were already starting to ask and come to me. And if they're already coming to you, or if they're already asking for something, there's a gap in the market. But what they were coming to me for is a personal approach to work with voice and to work with themselves, because it wasn't about how to walk or how to do a PowerPoint. It was how to be more of who I want to be, how to be more inspiring. So the biggest thing to define yourself in your competition is to be very, very clear on who you want to serve and why you want to serve them, and really what unique selling point. Everybody has a unique selling point, and it's not the most obvious things. It's often your zone of genius. It's probably the thing that you pay the most little attention to. It could be your listening skills. It could be the fact that you can really define what somebody's problem is and get crystal clear, what their solution is. And there will always be somebody. I do believe it's like if we keep one eye into where our markets are, like where is the gap? Who is not being served in the marketplace?
Is that the people who should train? Because I'm sure you see what range.
Behind him is bloody lecture. Oh, you switch it off?
No, because it's...
Come over.
Is there a lecture?
Yeah, come over. Join the party on that side.
So in terms of training people, how do you see, how do you help someone? Is it sometimes they have psychology approach which they would need to be addressed, or is it just purely something you can coach with the voice?
Both. It's both because your speaking voice is very much you, isn't it? It's your identity. It's part of your identity. Most people don't like their speaking voices because they don't actually hear them as they truly are. We only hear what we think we hear, and we only hear from our own bones inside our own head. If you listen back to your answer phone on your phone, you probably think, oh my God, I really dislike my own speaking voice. It sounds nasal, it sounds dull, it sounds this. But it's important to just realise that people hear your tone, and we're looking for a truthfulness in somebody, and we hear that as much through somebody's tone of voice as we see it in their actions. So there's plenty of research that your body language is about 55% of what somebody is actually looking at and picking up cues from you. 7% is the words you actually say, and 38% is your tone of voice, and that's in a visual setting like this. So tone of voice is huge, because if we're speaking really monotone, or we're speaking really quietly, or we're starting to shout or posture ourselves, people are just they're either attracted to your truthfulness that's coming out, or they're turned off by it. You see, I love the word pay attention, because to pay attention means it's going to cost somebody something. There's always a price to pay when you're in front of somebody, and it's the job of whoever's actually doing the talking to pay attention, to both pay attention to make sure that audience is actually getting value from that interaction, and that when you're speaking to an audience, whoever it is, whether it's a one-to-one, whether it's a customer, whether it's a staff member, whether it's a new opportunity in networking, it's that to realise that time is precious for all of us these days. So the way we say the words, the how we say the words, the tone of voice, it's massive. And if you're on the phone, 97% of whether somebody trusts you comes through the tone of your voice, because they can't see you. So I knew particularly it's an area that's not really spoken about. It's an area that's not really spoken about in terms of presenting. We always think of presenting as overcoming fear of public speaking, or PowerPoint, or how-tos, but really it's about who you be, because you can dispense with all of the PowerPoint. You can dispense with an awful lot of it when you realise that you can craft the way you talk. And so I'll walk somebody through what their unique selling points are. We'll sometimes create a signature talk for them that I call a take anywhere talk, so that we can actually go around and do lots of talks. And I'm a really big believer in a startup learning how to grow their business through speaking, because it's leverage. You can either have 14 one-to-ones with people through the week, that's 14 hours of your time to try and do a one-to-one, even if it's a half an hour phone call, or you can get in front of people and you can speak to 14 people or so in 45 minutes, and you will find that you have got clear people that are attracted to you that you can go and have really geared up conversations with. So I'm a massive fan of leveraging right from the get-go in terms of learning how to speak and learning how to actually put yourself across as a new business, particularly for things like tech, startups, the technical things, accountancy, finances. Anybody that's in those, and engineering, anybody that's in those kinds of industries often spends a lot of their time behind a computer or in an office, and they're not necessarily ever going to be in front of a large audience. But if you can learn those skills and develop those skills at the very beginning, you can really, really make your whole entrepreneurial journey a lot easier.
They will be professional.
That's right.
Prepared. And in terms of the things which you still haven't done, is there anything you would still like to do which you haven't had time to do yet?
Loads. There's just not enough hours. God has not made me late today, and I'm really annoyed about it because there is so much I'd love to do. On the talk skills front, I've got a real passion to bring speaking clubs back that are a little bit more up to date than things like Toastmasters to me, which I think Toastmasters is fantastic, but it's very kind of 80s and it's very kind of levels. And I'd love to bring speaking clubs where people can really just learn how to be themselves and chat and network in a really sort of natural manner. And on a personal level, I've just got one of these passions to create a one-woman show and take it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, but that's a different passion.
And how would you see your business developing? Would you have branches across the country, or would you see yourself employing other people? How would you see that developing?
Yeah, this is really interesting. I built myself a really great job, and I didn't realise it for about the first 10 years. Because I'm an expert in voice, gone right the way through to anatomy, physiology, as far as I can go in the study of voice, I've gone. So I could, get in there and fix voices really quickly. But then I become chained to that thing. So when I started talk skills, I realised I wanted to start it differently. I fell into what I was doing through default, going, I want to set up a vocal coaching studio. And I'm incredibly grateful because working with all of those people has given me the skills of it. But it didn't give me a business that I could sell or walk away from. It gave me a really specific expert job. So this time it was about building a business that I could sell, walk away from. And the hardest part of that, or the new journey for me, is to actually create, instead of me helping somebody go to that bit or finding that thing, they coming to me, creating vehicles, creating trainings, creating opportunities and experiences where people can develop themselves through that. So it can be training, it can be so I've taken on a business partner because it was about not doing everything on my own and actually reaching out, asking for help, leveraging, outsourcing, and creating ways of actually getting that opportunity and that knowledge out that wasn't about me. Because if the knowledge is about me, then it dies with me and you always need me to do it. But if the knowledge is not about me, and if you can actually create ways of replicating that, then you've really got the ability to scale and to help a lot more people.
So what's your aspirations for your business? What's your...
I want to take, for me, talk skills. I totally want to take talk skills national, which is one of the first things that I had done, again, on a bigger scale than I started 10 years ago, which is instead of me just working with a PR lady for me to work one-to-one, I've hired somebody to work with me for the year to actually take talk skills national. So I'll be looking for press, I'll be looking for opportunities to speak, I'll be looking for opportunities to write. Because for me it's about brand awareness at that point. So and it was just like taking the thing and extending its ability, because I'd already walked one path of learning how to start a startup business, keep it going, go through the pitfalls, go through the cash flow pitfalls, come out the other end, and just realise that this time round I wanted to build a different type of company. But still the basis of getting brand awareness, visibility, getting in front of clients that I can find out what they want and then create something that will serve them. That's still the basis for us that goes on.
And in terms of your people which you've helped, are they majority in the entertainment industry or business? What's the split like of your customers?
You work with any famous people?
Well, if you have.
Gosh, I have worked with some famous people on the music side, and my husband has worked with even more famous people than me, because my husband's a sound engineer and record producer. And we still run a recording studio in Cardiff called Castle Lane Studios. So in the early days, I think I recorded Catatonia, Kerry's Matthews. I'm on the radio this weekend with Connie Fisher. Lots of people in and around the Cardiff, and lots of aspiring artists. What's interesting to me is people go, have you worked with any famous people? As if that suddenly gives me credibility because I've worked with a famous person by association, okay? Here's where
You work with Frank Henderson.
I tell you what really gives me a better credibility, and what really hits the road is there's several people in Cardiff, and there's several people that are now in London from Theatre College upwards that would not be there if they hadn't worked with me. And that to me is a better way of looking at it, because I grew up watching a level of fame. I grew up with the legacy of George Formby in the 70s. It was huge. Because I've been around rock bands and singers and certain famous people most of my life, I realise it's actually not about that. That is not the end goal, some achievement, to be famous. It is for a lot of people as if suddenly it's, I'll be happy when. But actually that's not the goal of it. In fact, actually what creates the opportunities for anything, it doesn't matter what your type of business is, whether it's music, whether it's speaking, whether it's tech, whether it's teaching, is that you just take every single opportunity that you've got and you work it to the best of your ability, and then another opportunity opens up for you, and another. And I think if you look at some really famous people like 50 Cent, Madonna, Beyonce, they're business people, and it doesn't matter whether it was music or it wouldn't matter if it was something else. They just chose that vehicle and they went down that vehicle. But they're so entrepreneurial that they would have found a way to make themselves famous or business, no matter what it was.
How would you see yourself perhaps with your successful business in 5-10 years' time? You did say that it would be national, but how would you, what's your vision?
Well, my vision is to be able to get some of the training that I know works, and some of the training that I've developed into other training companies, into schools, into corporates, into businesses, because I've got two goals for the business. The first one is to influence the influencers, because I know if I influence the influencers, if I'm with a manager at the top of the corporation, and I can affect a change there, then that's going to filter all the way down to the bottom. And then it's to influence the influencers and educate the masses. So when I'm talking about education, if I can get certain things about how to, kids leaving university, how to actually have confidence and present themselves, then they're actually not going to keep failing their interviews. They're going to come across better. But I will start with the people that come to me. So the people that are coming to me are solopreneurs, managers. It can be, certain things. At the moment, it seems to be quite an interesting demographic in the civil service. I've got great inroads into working with people. Just had an opportunity to work in Westminster with some of the sort of higher level civil servants. Because they're getting something fresh and new, but because I come from an entertainment background rather than just a business, although I've got a sales background too, I can marry the two together and understand where they're coming from. And the biggest thing is I'm not trying to force something on somebody. It's like helping people develop who they want to be and go and do what they want to do to the best of their ability.
What do you say when some people, when they see someone which they speak so well and they present fantastic, some people don't quite believe that, and they actually prefer someone which is a bit nervous, then they believe more that they're being honest than the true professional coach?
I think, I think it's interesting. There's something that I teach called the 3 circles of energy, and we know about this in the acting world. And there's a big difference. It's not about being coached. It's about what you do with your energy. If you've got somebody that is, if somebody is very, very nervous, that's actually quite off-putting for the audience, because all the energy is drawn into them. They're incredibly self-conscious, and everything is on them, and you feel for them. You can't listen to them. It's gone too far. It's all of that energy is drawn back into them. And it was an acting coach called Patsy Rodenberg that first developed we know about it, but she developed it into the 3 circles of energy. What you're talking about is what we class as the 3rd circle of energy, which is where it's all out at you. And it might be your American sales pitch, or it might be, it's a pitch fest, you've got everybody in there and they lock the doors and they're just kind of throwing it at you. Or it could be a politician that has been taught to use his hands here, which is very unnatural because the head always leads the way. So the head thinks and then the body acts. But if we're suddenly just making a movement or we're doing things that are out of alignment, it's the body language things, we can pick it up. What we really value is what we call a win-win situation, and on the theatre we call it the 2nd circle, which is being present. You're being present to the fact that we're not hiding away things that haven't worked. We're telling the truth. It might be a story about how we lost a contract in business and what we learned about it. It could be also being present to the fact that owning the successes that we've had. And the biggest thing is actually being present to the audience and being able to actually have some level of connection with what they're there for as well.
That's so far.
Does that make sense to you?
It does to me. I'm not sure about the audience, but we can ask questions. But before we start with the questions, can we please thank Angela for her talk? It's been fantastic. I've learned so much.
Carry on.
So, yeah, David.
Go on, ask me something.
So what do you actually typically do? If I come to you, I say like I stutter or I'm really bad in groups of people. Improve me. What's your process?
Improve me, David. The first thing that I would actually do is I'm going to look at where you want to speak, what you want to be talking about, because I want to find context. Okay, I need to find context first. And then we'd actually start on a physical, practical level of doing some practical work on the voice. Anything, depending on the person, if it's a stutterer, it's generally, there's an emotional connection that they've made in terms of nerves and in terms of thinking processes as well. Sometimes people will stutter and they won't when they're singing, or they will in different contexts. But we'll actually slow down speech, breathing, and there's a lot of practice. Imagine what you would do with a singer, but then not using singing exercises, changing those exercises. I'll often use quite fun things like tongue twisters, or if I've seen that somebody's got a particular speech issue and there's certain consonants that need, they're just not being forming very well. Some people will actually grow up forming their vowels and consonants with the blade of their tongue rather than the tip of their tongue. So we can get quite anatomical with it. If you're in a group of people, you're going to do general stuff. If you've got somebody one-to-one, you can get much more specific with where their confidence levels are, where their physical voice is working, doing work with them on speaking, on pacing, on creating talks that they can go out with and use, depending on if that's what they're wanting to do, or if they're just wanting to get more confident on the phone or at work, etc. So it's based on where the individual wants the result to take them, and then you plan how to get them there.
I'm trying to put in context for me because I've pitched in front of people for startup funding.
Yeah.
I've pitched a group of people. I've pitched one-on-one.
Yeah.
With the bank manager.
Yeah.
And also stuttering is in my family. My mum's dad died when she was 13. She stammered.
Yeah.
Because she overcame it.
Yeah.
But I find I kind of inherited it. If I get excited, I do stumble over my words.
Yeah.
But that's more because my brain is moving so quickly. And normal people can't keep up.
No, you mentioned again, it's like it's a level of busy thinking a lot of sometimes for people in their head. You ask any amazing performer, you ask a speaker, a really good speaker or a really good performer, what they're thinking about when they're speaking, and they'll say nothing. Because what they're not doing is the psychology is we're always feeling our thinking in the moment. In other words, your feelings are not telling you about the future, they're just telling you what your state of thinking is in the moment. So being able to actually calm down a busy mind and have levels of focus, and we can practice that physically with people. Like if I've got a physical accent to deal with, somebody wants to physically deal with their accent, then I will look at, say we've got a teacher and their second language is English and they're teaching in a classroom. We'll look at certain English vowels, English consonants, what they may not have it in their language. We'll have to practice that. And again, there's a lot of practice. Repetition is the mother of skill. All musicians know that they will practice and practice and practice. We don't practice speech because we just grow up doing it. So we don't think that that's something else that we can practice quite simply and quite easily, as long as we can get to the heart of the problem and get something specific to help them with it.
Yeah, I did a meet-up in London, actually teaching foreigners to knock some edges off their accents in English. I did it with a Portuguese friend of mine who's English, I would say, probably 95%. And that was quite interesting. The most fun thing we did was there's a whole bunch of tube stations in London with pronunciation is not obvious. Surrey Quays, Tottenham Court Road.
Yes.
Oh. No, you are definitely foreign if you get those wrong.
But what's interesting is there are some commonalities. For instance, male, because of where the tone of a male voice is, and because of the frequency that depending on the size of somebody's vocal cords and where their voice actually resonates, you will find that men will often go monotone. So they will often speak. They will not speak with intonation, with moving the pitch around, which is what makes speech interesting. So as interesting as it is if an easy way around it is to actually start to think as if you were telling us children's story, moving the voice around, being able to actually project the voice. It's really important. If you're going to speak to somebody and it's like mumbling like a train announcer, then again it's the paying attention thing. People are just they're going to try for a couple of seconds and then they're going to give up. It's just important not to be so. It's not about being prim and proper, but it is just about clear communication. I remember doing a BBC interview about accents. Should we change our accent was the thing. And you have several people phoning in and all sorts.
Well, BBC now would say no.
No, they would. Now, clearly at one point, but again, they said, well, should we change it? And I said, well, to me, if you're, say you're in business, if you're in a really local business and you're a local shop in the middle of, a particular town, you don't need to change a thing. Your customer is local. They're going to value the local accent. It's going to be local. The more national and the more international that you have to communicate yourself personally, it's not about changing your accent, but it is about being clear to make sure that the person you're talking to is going to get you. Otherwise, it's just a waste of your breath and a waste of their time.
Okay, so
So
what one takeaway would you have for all of this practice that you said would improve our communication?
I would say the first thing is, as crazy as this sounds, I would just start from where you are. And start from where you are, in other words, take opportunities to speak first of all, as many times, because there's so many opportunities in certain people's jobs where they don't get to speak, and it could easily be avoided. Start taking opportunities to speak, and the next one is record yourself, as crazy as this sounds, like even if it's on your phone, it's not the best microphone, but record yourself, and then have a listen back. First of all, just get used to the sound of your own voice. Once you've overcome the judgment around it, lose that quickly and imagine that you were just listening to somebody else. And if it's a networking pitch, if it's a pitch for funding, if it's a small speech, listen back, record it, practice it. Don't just get up and go write it and then go speak it. Because if you imagine, if we were going to sort of hand you a piece of music and go, okay, sing this, you'd want to go practice. You would feel as if you weren't ready to do it. But because we can speak, we don't think about the value of just running through it a couple of times physically before we actually say the thing we're going to say.
I've done a few photography courses and we were each other's models. So you have to get over having your photo taken. So having your voice recorded.
Just the voice recorded, because you've got to get over what you listen like, and then you can go, okay, if I was being really objective about this, is it monotone? Women tend to, unfortunately, when they get nervous, they start to talk really higher because the breath goes really higher, and before we know it, we're up here and we're getting really, really nervous, and the voice goes higher and higher and higher. And women tend to fall into that pattern. Men tend to fall into either a monotone or a shouting situation because the voice is capable of doing that. But when you just have a listen to yourself, get some self-awareness on it first of all, but without judgment, because that doesn't help anybody. And then if you personally, it's like some people go, okay, they've got enough self-awareness to go, I'll change this, I'll do that. And then they go ahead and do it. Other people have the opportunity to go, okay, let me go get some coaching. And you can start off really simply with a couple of sessions, or you can work with somebody over a 3, 6, 12 months to actually grow your whole ability to communicate and grow your business, your brand and your speaking. It just depends on the level, but I would say is start somewhere and start somewhere small by listening to yourself and then taking the next step.
So what would you say? Sorry, does anybody else have a question?
Go on.
Okay. So what would you say is the most common thing you have to work with?
The most common thing is, I call it 5 fruit, 2 veg, okay? We all know that it would be really good for us to eat more fruit and more veg, to drink less coffee and to take up exercise, okay? Bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? We know that for a balanced life, for great communication, we know really that we should communicate better, that we should, we know these things. It's like it's the common sense wisdom. It's that we know that works. If we can hear somebody when they're speaking, it's more engaging. If we're connecting with them, we keep their attention. If we ask good quality questions and we learn how to really listen to what somebody's asking us, we're going to have a better sense of communication with people. But we get so self-conscious. We either get two things: we get too self-conscious, or we're not self-aware enough. We think we can just get away with it. It's a bit. The worst habit for me is winging it. Not the people that are scared, because the people that are scared will either do one of the two things. They'll either just avoid speaking completely and find a route to power that doesn't involve it. Okay, and I meet them at senior leadership then, when they've got to do something. Or the worst culprits are the wingers. Now wingers are great because wingers are already quite confident. They don't need any help. They can get up there, they can talk, they can joke, they can do the whole thing, and they wing it. And the thing about winging it is that they could actually be incredible because they've already got a level of confidence and a level of understanding. They could be incredible, but they